Let's go, baby. Welcome to the Athletes and Assets podcast. I'm your host, Noah Lack, and I bring on elite athletes to chat about a business topic. Whether it's venture capital, retail, sales, crypto, your favorite athletes know a lot more about business than you think, but how would you know that from just watching mainstream media? You're going to learn a topic of business here, but you're also going to learn a lot about the athletes themselves. Tune in. Please like, subscribe, give us a follow, because we're bringing the heat. Let's get it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Who helped found the Farmlink project this year.
Thank you for having us.
It started with the idea, why can't we take this food and give it to these food banks?
Let's go, man. This is another episode of the Athletes and Assets podcast, and I'm joined by a former Brown Water Polo stud, current co-founder of Decent, my guy Will Collier. Will, let's skip the small talk, brother. You played water polo, Division I, but my first question to you, I just got to know, how long can you hold your breath underwater for?
Man, at this point, I'd say probably no longer than 30 or 40 seconds.
Really?
I think at its peak, I haven't tried. I haven't, admittedly, I've been in a pool less than I would like to be since leaving Brown. I think at its peak, I could probably do about a lap and a half to almost 2 laps of a pool underwater. So my lungs were much stronger back then.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought you were gonna say like 2-3 minutes. I mean, it gets feisty out there in those water polo games, man. Like these are big dudes that could drown you. You got to know how to, hold that breath.
You got to know how to hold your breath underwater. You also, in general, with water polo, are looking to avoid putting your face underwater too much because people will take advantage of that and get after you. But for sake of story, let's go with 3 minutes is how long I can hold.
Yeah. I'll edit out like the first.
Edit that out.
Yeah,
exactly.
Edit that out. We'll just start with 3 minutes. We'll just start with the first 3 minutes. What do you think was your biggest or most impressive athletic quality in the pool? Was it the speed of swimming, how high you could jump out of the water, your arm strength?
Yeah, definitely. I think in general was always a strong swimmer. Speed was something that I had, but for the most part, my role on the team was as a shooter as well. So just my arm strength or accuracy with shots was probably my biggest accomplishment in the pool. I would say the other thing that I always was really excited about was keeping the team, excited and motivated, especially, in my role from freshman to senior year, depending on the season, I either was playing a good amount or I actually, as most people do, spent a good time on the bench. And so I think one of the biggest factors that contributed to the team, even when I wasn't in the pool, was just being able to keep the energy up and keep my teammates rallied as much as I could, because the energy from the team and from the bench really, I think it does matter. So, yeah,
I mean, especially, I guess, at a school like Brown where there's probably a lot of academic pressure. I mean, I'm chatting with a ACWPC all academic team. Honoree, so scrape that one off the website. But
absolutely,
you've had to balance both, and to have that perspective, even when you're not playing, to cheer your teammates on. It's so cliche because we always talk about it, and you hear it from a million different sources. But that's good stuff, man. You're a leader out there.
That was what I was going for. Any way that you're able to contribute, I think it just matters to always be engaged and always, have what's best for the team in mind as well. And to your point about the academic pressure, I think that balance that came with, being an athlete, but also everything else when you're a college student, it really is something that has shaped me and where I've gone since then. But I'm sure, you can say the same for yourself with what you did at Santa Clara and with the basketball too.
Yeah, describe to me, give us some insight on that water polo culture at Brown. I feel like all water polo teams have some similar like frat vibe with each team. Let's be real. If I'm partying, I'm trying to party with the water polo guys. Like they know how to have a good time.
We had a great group at Brown. I think the biggest impact that the program or playing a sport in college had on me was you get thrown right into college with a built-in friend group. And for me, it was incredible to have such a fun group of guys around. I guess to give sort of a thought or mental image of the team, it's mostly a California sport. And so we had a lot of guys from Southern California, Northern California that, were all used to being outside and having, I guess, a lot of sun and a lot of activity going on. And so when you get guys like that all together in a colder, darker place, I think we're always looking for ways to cheer up the vibe and have a good time for sure. So
eloquently said, my man. Beautifully said. I was looking at your roster and like half the guys went to Menlo School.
Oh yeah. We have a couple pipelines that are pretty secure in terms of where the players come from. It definitely, even Brown, most of the East Coast schools that are D1 water polo, you'll see, I think 98% of our team was from California, and that's normal around the league, just because the high school makeup of where programs succeed and where water polo has become so popular is truly California, and then you have sort of one pocket in Connecticut, a single team in Connecticut, and where I'm from, there's a couple programs that have had some success from Florida or Texas, but that's really it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you rocking the Santa Clara merch, by the way. I want to make sure I give a shout out.
Absolutely. Go Broncos, right?
Yeah, go Coes, man. Thanks for thinking of us. Were you interested in Web3 in college? Or when did you get exposed to like this whole different, the third step of the internet?
Yeah, so I was exposed to it first in college. I think I had heard, really, really vague inklings of it before then from just certain people in high school. But the first time that I really was sort of thrown into crypto was my sophomore year of college in 2017. It was this, I guess, 2 hype cycles ago. There were a few guys in my fraternity at school that actually were quitting school, had left school to start a crypto startup, or one of my good friends who actually is now an advisor to our company and works in crypto was the third employee at Uniswap a couple years after that, which is one of the largest, most successful companies in the crypto space. And so those people around me really were the first to expose me to crypto. But I was interested for a bit, fell out of it for a couple years, and then when I was working in my consulting role, my first sort of official job out of college, and yearning to start something new, it was a space that I dove heavily into in 2021, was the sort of second coming of my crypto interest.
Yeah, I had a little exposure in 2021. I remember when that sort of like bull market, me and my buddies were in the group chat, and for me, we were always talking about what are the sleeper picks, what are the sleeper currencies that will pop off. And for me, I was all in on SafeMoon, baby. I was like, I'll put in $40 in SafeMoon and get $100K return. It's inevitable. Like that was the thought process of my mind.
Only up. It only goes up until it doesn't. But those bull cycles are definitely, I guess, an exciting time. Definitely a volatile time to be a part of what's going on. But I think in general, it does just take one or two people that you see around you getting really fired up about it, and you see the, I guess, applications, or in some cases just the money that they made previously, and it's maybe enough to give that first push to trying to understand what's going on a little bit better. And for me, I think it only continued to get more interesting when you sort of move past that surface level, hype driven, volatile investment piece of it, and actually get down to, what the real world value, what the intrinsic disruptive value is with certain applications.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we're sort of semi in sort of this bearish state, and so kudos to you, because if you're starting a Web3 company in a time where it's not so popular, that shows conviction on your end to really dive into it.
It's been a really cool building process. I guess cool is it's been an interesting building process where we actually did first start the company during that 2021, 2022 bull cycle. And then about 6 months into building, we dove right into a bear market, and it's been that way since. And so we've actually gotten sort of both sides of the coin, where we've had the experience of building within this hyped up market, and now have been building in this bear market for a while. And it's completely different strategies, completely different, I guess, day-to-days that you have when you're either in one case trying to capture a lot of the volume and value that is being moved and actually transacted every day, versus having a little bit less of an external pressure to always be immediately capturing value with users or interacting with users, and looking more in the bear market, looking more into how are we able to build something that is setting us up for this next cycle, when there is going to be this influx of users, influx of attention, such that we have a good foundation and a sustainable model that works for the people that will be entering.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you are the co-founder of Decent. One-click transactions using any token across chains. Will,
yes, sir.
What the hell does that mean?
All right, so I guess from starting from a basic perspective, an analogy that I use a lot is, we're in the United States. Say want to go to Japan, you want to travel. If you want to go to that country and be interacting in their economy, you need to do a currency exchange, right? You need to go from dollars to yen. In a sort of a similar parallel universe, if you're doing any sort of transaction within crypto, essentially there's a whole bunch of blockchains. I'm sure people have heard potentially the names of Ethereum or Polygon, Optimism, and those are just 3 of thousands. But every blockchain that an application is built upon has a different token that allows you to make a transaction on that blockchain, a different native token, or something to pay the transaction fees to actually build on that blockchain, right? And so
what is a token, really quick? Like, what does that mean?
A token is a currency similar to dollars. Dollars, you can have in paper money, but tokens are a currency that all the value is digital. It can be exchanged for dollars. You can off ramp into dollars to actually get your cryptocurrency value in dollar currency, but a token is just a type of currency. Really, where that plays in though is, depending on what blockchain you're on, there are you need to get your tokens to the right blockchain in order to transact on that platform. So, if I have an application, or if I'm interacting with an application that's built on Ethereum, but then I want to go and use an application that's built on the Polygon network, I need to go and actually, myself as a user, go to a third-party site, do this process called bridging, as well as swapping to get into the correct currency on the correct blockchain. That process takes 10 minutes to over an hour. It is expensive because you have to pay fees in order to do so.
Are those called gas fees?
Those are called gas fees.
Gas
so
fees, yep.
gas fees, you can look at it like a tax, but it's a fee that you pay in order to pay the computing power for the transaction which you're making on a blockchain. So on different blockchains, some are more expensive, less expensive, but it's essentially a fee that you pay in order to interact with the blockchain. And so the gas fees to bridge between blockchains are high. The time that it takes to do that process yourself is high. And ultimately, you as a user have this barrier to entry where before you go and interact with an application on any new blockchain that you haven't interacted with before, you're having to go and do that bridging process on multiple different sites before interacting or actually just using the application. And that is a massive barrier and a massive reason why a lot of people just don't use these applications that are built on blockchains that they haven't been introduced to yet. And so what Decent does, to get back to the heart of the matter, is we abstract entirely the need to ever bridge or swap. When you go to interact or use an application, if you have if the team has Decent's checkout modal, our button at the point of sale, you can pay any token with any token on any blockchain that's in your wallet. And we do all the bridging and swapping, any of that sort of currency exchange in the background, and the transaction goes through in a single click, settles in seconds, the same way any normal transaction would.
Wow. So two things. One, like what you're doing is pretty damn cool, because
Thank you.
From someone I had to experience swapping payments back in 2021 to get to the currencies I wanted to invest in, and it was a hassle. I had to go to like Pancake Labs or something like that.
Pancake Swap.
Yeah, Pancake Swap. Yeah, that shit was bullshit. I couldn't figure it out. But like, don't get me wrong. You did an incredible job of explaining that. But to get the next billion users onto Web3, this has to simplify even more, doesn't it? Like, how do we get more people to not only adopt Web3, but like, what's your value prop for people for Decent?
Absolutely. So really, breaking it down for you guys there, it still used some technical language, but the hope and the, vision for what building with Decent enables is you never have to worry about the jargon of what blockchain am I on, what blockchain am I interacting with, because our point of sale, our checkout modal, enables you to purchase with any currency that you hold in your wallet. And in the future, we're looking at how do we make it so that dollars are in there as well. I can pay in fiat and get this transaction to settle on a blockchain. Ultimately, the talk about what blockchain am I on or anything around the technical underbelly of crypto should not even have to be said.
Is there something out there that I would be better off right now purchasing with a cryptocurrency versus USD?
I would say, with regards to purchasing, digital assets are something that are probably the most purchased or transacted with crypto, where crypto is incredibly useful with regards to day-to-day, would be settling like cross-border payments would be a first example that comes to mind. So if you in the US want to send money to someone outside of the US, transferring money to them in crypto that they can then sort of off-ramp into whatever currency the country they are in, supports, that would be far easier than setting a wire transfer, paying the fees for the wire transfer, waiting 3 days, or I guess if you're doing ACH, waiting 3 days for it to get to the bank, and collecting fees at every point along the way. Any sort of transfer of value, that is a much easier process if you use crypto.
God, the international application makes total sense because of the differences in exchange rates. I mean, I don't want to go like when I was in Europe and I went to go to the exchange rate to switch out for dollars or euros. I gave them $180 and I felt like I only got half back. I was like, where did the rest of the money go? Not only because of the currency difference, but like the fee of exchanging.
Absolutely. There's a lot of fees that the middlemen, the money transmitters end up taking along the way. I think this is Circle or US dollar coins number one selling point for their product, their stable coin, which is always backed by the same dollar value. So it's like one US dollar coin is always equal to a US dollar. You can send it anywhere around the world. It'll get there in seconds or less. It costs very, very little, exponentially less than it would to do international transfer. And it's a completely or 100% execution rate where you're not worrying, is my transfer going to get there? But it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one thing I keep seeing is I'm seeing a rise in creator economy startups, and they're using some sort of blockchain application as the source of cryptocurrency as the source of payment.
Yeah.
What's the logic there versus just using dollars? Is it the royalties? Like what's the big?
Yes. So there's been a few waves of creator economy companies that have come through. One of the big selling points about using NFTs or putting art out on the blockchain a couple of years ago really was that royalty aspect of every time it's traded on a secondary market, there are royalties that the original artist is getting back from each secondary sale, which is I guess a better system than I'm an artist, I sell something in the real world, that's it. I never see anything from that ever again. That in some ways has broken down a little bit as different platforms have come through that have said, we're going to get rid of that royalty mechanism. But I do have a pretty top of mind example. I was watching a demo day for Consumer Crypto Accelerator last week, and there was a company called MintStars. So essentially OnlyFans, but crypto. Their big value prop was whether or not
MintStars. Sorry.
Yeah, MintStars. Their big value prop was, hey, even if OnlyFans, for example, which takes 20% of earnings for their creators, even if they pay out to these creators, a lot of times the banks that the creators are trying to withdraw from will actually freeze their transactions or hold their transactions because of the sort of X-rated industry that they're in, and whether it violates guidelines for companies like a Visa or one of these money processors. A lot of times they just don't get they're not able to get their funds out of these banks. And so in that realm, I guess MintStars is saying, hey, that you're going to get 100% of what you're earning, and you're going to be able to have that money come back to you.
Yeah. I see the OnlyFans parallel, comparison. A lot of things I see in the music industry is artists want to, tokenize, mint X, Y, Z.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, what are you seeing there?
So we started, when we did Y Combinator in the winter 2022 batch, so January of 2022, the company, or Decent at that point, was actually a music-focused company. Two of my, or one of my co-founders from Brown, he was one of my best friends from college. I got to watch him grow as a musician through freshman year. He was just an independent musician releasing music from his distributor account. Fast forward to senior year, he signed to Palm Tree Records. He's been touring with Kygo for the last few years. And really what Decent was at that point was we were using artists sort of selling their NFTs of their music, selling digital assets in order to raise funding, raise capital without having to go and make a deal with a label, right? In music, in creative arts in general, there's a lot of middlemen in that space. So you have managers and labels and agencies and a bunch of people that when you sign up with them, they actually get, essentially like a company, they get equity, or they get your percentages of your upside in perpetuity. And so for artists that are just starting out, the crypto-based creator economy companies have been a good way to, build an audience, get some immediate capital without having to go through, this sort of extractive process of working through middlemen within the music and entertainment space.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I'm definitely looking forward to the day where all artists are independent, in a way, and can leverage, blockchain to build their brand and help them monetize faster. What you hear this word democratize, the democratizing access, getting rid of the middleman around Web3 jargon. And so, like, to people who quickly refute the idea that this won't be something that different groups actively use, I'm not saying it's just going to take over Web 2, but you got to see the value there. I mean, like,
I think
it's inherently obvious.
Definitely. I think it's something where, depending on the point in someone's career that you're approaching them, or depending on the situation, similar to almost like independent labels or different creator economy tech startups that aren't blockchain. I think there's a lot of different paths that artists can go, and one is not necessarily better than the other, but it really depends on what you're trying to get out of your career, what you're trying to optimize for. It's something where building in a space like music is incredibly difficult, because there are essentially 3 or 4 large parties that operate or own 70% of the space, right? And so that's those major labels that have such a stranglehold on that sort of really the lion's share of what is created and what is marketed and what then succeeds in music, because it gets this spotlight and it gets this plethora of resources behind it. And so really, I'm looking forward to the day when there are other channels that artists are able to go through in order to create sustainable careers for themselves without having to sort of deal with all that bureaucracy. Right,
man. And so the theme of this, Web3 simplification, I want to transition a little bit into giving you, having you break down some terminology in the simplest way possible.
All right.
You ready? You're ready?
Yes.
All right. So term number 1, built-in bridging. What the hell does that mean?
That means that instead of having to go on your own to a site that does bridging, that you send some of your money from one place to another, which takes time and also fees on the interaction. We, in the background, will do that without you having to lift a finger.
Number 2, automatic bridging.
Automatic bridging, I would say same thing, same theme there. The core of it is, in any company, any e-commerce experience that you've ever had, any application that you've ever had to go and use, Fruit Ninja or Airbnb, there's never been an application where you show up and they're like, hey, you need to go to 3 other websites and do these actions, and then you can use our application, right? Right now, bridging and swapping are these barriers, these user experience hurdles that, to enter into the crypto space, you are forced to go through. With built-in bridging in our point of sale product, with automatic bridging, same thing there. We're saying don't ever worry about those hurdles. Use whatever money you have in your wallet or that you have liquidity in. We will take care of any sort of exchange that needs to happen. So similar to Stripe in Web 2, where e-commerce sites say, we want to do checkout, we want to collect credit card information, but we really want to set this up incredibly easily. They just implement Stripe into their checkout, right? Same thing. So for Web3, you put Decent in your checkout flow, and it makes the user experience just entirely such that users don't even have to think about ever bridging and swapping before using an application.
Got it. Number 3, secondary sales.
Secondary sales. So if I were to create a project or create NFTs on the blockchain, a primary sale would be you buy the NFT directly from me, right? Like I mint them, you buy from me. A secondary sale is once there's been a purchase, that user can then sell it to other users. And so it's a secondary sale would be that peer-to-peer secondary market for NFTs or any sort of other asset that someone's buying online. Similar to an eBay, you buy mostly secondary goods on eBay.
So that was awesome, man. I appreciate you breaking down the terminology, and want to wish you best of luck with Decent and what you're building, man. This is a very crypto-focused episode, and that was my intention. But I also want to give you some love for the Farmlink project, which you started a couple years ago. And I think a lot of people, a lot of athletes or people tuning in kind of missed what happened there. You started a nonprofit that basically connected farmers and there are over 100 million pounds of excess food to food banks to give to people in need, man. College kids started that. You started that in school.
Yes, sir.
Man, can you reflect a little bit about that journey? And rumor on the street has it was some athletes that started that.
Definitely, yeah. So I co-founded that organization with my twin brother, who was a tennis player at Brown, as well as one of my water polo teammates from Brown, Aiden Riley, and a couple other guys as well, but just highlighting the athletes there. But we started it, I was a senior in college, they were juniors, and we were sent home from school just like every other college student in the United States and in the world. And in March 2020, there was sort of an exacerbation of a long-time problem, something that's been happening for years, where in a normal year, 30 to 40% of all food grown on farms goes to waste. So 30 to 40% of everything that we create food-wise goes to waste. During the pandemic, that skyrocketed because schools closed down, stadiums, offices, restaurants, anywhere that had demand from these farms had no demand. And so farmers were left with fields and fields, millions, billions of pounds of produce that was just going nowhere. At the same time, because this was the pandemic, there was also a really big strain on the food bank system in the United States. People had lost their jobs, were out of work. Children that were usually on school programs for getting food through the state were left without meals. And so you had these two problems that were coming to a head where billions of pounds of produce were going to waste on one end, and millions of people were going hungry on the other. And so we looked at that, and the reason Farmlink project is called the Farmlink project is what we wanted to be that missing link between these two broken pieces of the existing food system in the United States. And so we, in April 2020, started Farmlink. By June, we onboarded about an organization of 200 full-time volunteers, almost every one of them college students as well, through a lot of creative filmmaking and actually just using the power of social media and networking amongst these college groups. We were able to distribute in the last 3 years, over 130 million pounds of fresh produce. But in that first summer, we went from 0 to 10 million pounds in that first 3 months. And so that was really the most, I think, impactful. One of the most incredible experiences I've ever been a part of, and was a really great first step into sort of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, where when I had to leave that and go into consulting, it was always in the back of my mind, when am I going to sort of make that leap again to set out and try to solve some problems. And so that was something that really, I think, changed the course of my life for sure.
Yeah, man. I didn't even take that into account, that not only did you do a lot of good for people, but it helped you probably to start decent, because you got a little taste of what it was like to be a leader and lead an organization. Yeah, well, man, this has been an awesome episode. Thank you so much. This has been a great episode with Will Collier, former Division I water polo player, co-founder of the Farmlink project, co-founder of Decent, decent.xyz. Go check them out. The next big thing in Web3. I am glad I got in early. Get your stuff soon.